Webster aged up to a teen, meaning it is now officially 1900. A bro heir. Elizabeth arranged a group of teens in town so Webster could make new friends. She included a good group of girls as potential spouses for Webster too. Webster really enjoyed getting to know the girl who lived next door, Italia. Elizabeth had other plans. Cassandra Goth came from big money, so wanted Webster to court her. Webster didn't come to talk to Cassandra. He spent all day around Italia. Elizabeth gave up for now, but would try again later. She hung out inside with Lucy while the kids talked. Lucy, though, complained about Ralph all night. All the other teens left, but Italia stayed around to spend time with Webster. Lucy was taking care of laundry outside before bed when Ralph walked up to her. He tried to kiss her like nothing happened, but she pushed him off. He explained he was in a loveless marriage, but divorce was frowned upon, so couldn't leave her. He promised Lucy he loved her. She decided to forgive him. He was so excited to be back together. Ralph asked Lucy to meet him at their private spot that afternoon. They sealed being back together with a rendezvous in the bushes. William was our founder. He died of a fatal illness. He married Elizabeth. In 1900s, indoor plumbing is allowed, so goodbye outhouse. And hello, shed. Elizabeth met with Oliver to discuss her wanting Webster to court Cassandra. He agreed they'd be a lovely couple, and he would help her talk him into it. They also talked about Ralph. Oliver wanted to publicly share what he did to shame him out of town. They did not know that Lucy and Ralph were back together. Before school, Elizabeth tried to bring up Cassandra to Webster. She said she wanted him to be successful and marrying into a rich family would guarantee that for him. Webster didn't want to talk about it. Oliver came over while Webster was at school to help Elizabeth plan to talk to him. Webster and Italia skipped school to spend time together. They were both smitten. When Webster got home, he saw Oliver and Cassandra were over for a talk. Elizabeth said he needed to get to know Cassandra since they may soon be wed. Webster told his mother to stop meddling but sat down to make her happy. Elizabeth gushed at how cute of a couple they would make. Later outside, Cassandra pulled Webster aside to tell him a secret. She told him she did not love him. She actually loved girls. She asked him to fake court her. She promised he could keep seeing Italia. She would trick her dad she was straight. He would trick his mom he was marrying rich. It was a win-win. Webster agreed. Elizabeth was so excited when she saw them hugging. While making dinner, Lucy began smelling things stronger than before that strangely made her sick.
Lucy was still frequently getting sick. Webster was secretly spending a lot of time with Italia. He even got to meet her mother. They frequently spent time at the watering hole because it was private. That next Sunday, Oliver preached on love and finding the partner God chose for you. Lucy got sick again in the middle of the sermon and had to run out. Oliver asked for Elizabeth to come forward as an example for his sermon. He announced God told him in a dream that Elizabeth was handpicked for him. And them being wed was blessed by Scripture, so he proposed in front of the whole church. Elizabeth said yes. After church, Webster met Cassandra's parents Mortimer and Bella. Mortimer asked Webster's intentions with their daughter. Webster was a bad liar, so just told them that he was letting God lead his direction to the future. Italia walked past and whispered for Webster to follow her. Behind the church, they met and shared time together. Webster assured her everything with Cassandra was fake and he only wanted to be with Italia.
Webster officially asked Italia to court. He promised when he was old enough to move out, he'd break off the fake courtship with Cassandra. He gave her a promise ring to promise himself to her. Elizabeth visited William's grave and updated him about her life. Lucy noticed a knot in her stomach growing. She immediately knew what it was. She was not happy to be with child out of wedlock. She went to go tell Elizabeth the news. Elizabeth was shocked. She didn't want the town to shame Lucy for being an unwed mother. Oliver met William. He told him the news that he proposed to Elizabeth. William didn't take it well. Oliver told him since he was dead he needed to let Elizabeth move on. Webster heard the commotion outside. He was amazed to see his father. He told him all about the situation with Cassandra and Italia. William said his mother just wanted what was best for him, but it is better to marry for love than money. He gave his blessing for him to marry Italia. Lucy used rose petals from her garden to try to take a relaxing bath. Later that day, she met with Ralph and told him the news. He took it better than she expected. He told her to come to his home later, and they'd tell his wife together. Once at home, Ralph snuck up on his wife while cooking and knew he needed to get rid of her. He strangled her to death. Lucy arrived shortly after and was shocked by the horrible scene. She ran out, but Ralph followed her. He explained he did it for them, and she could never tell anyone. Lucy ran home after, unable to process what just happened. Meanwhile, Webster was teaching Ophelia how to work the typewriter. Despite what Ralph said, Lucy immediately told Elizabeth everything. Lucy was scared. She would be shamed for being an unwed mother and the reason Ralph murdered his wife. Elizabeth told her telling the police was the right thing to do. They'd figure the rest out later. Lucy agreed. An officer later arrived at Ralph's home. He questioned him and accused him of murder. Ralph yelled at him he had no proof. The officer told Ralph he could come downtown the easy or hard way. Ralph refused. As a result, he was tackled and arrested. Down at the jailhouse, Ralph was questioned on what happened to his wife. He refused to answer any questions and said Lucy was the one who did it. He played an innocent widow. He said Lucy was a crazy girl who killed his wife to try to be with him. The officer didn't know what to believe, but still was very suspicious of Ralph. Ralph continued to blame Lucy for everything. Ralph was still booked and jailed for murder charges. Ralph told the officer he was making a mistake. If he wanted to find the killer, he needed to get Lucy. The officer found Lucy at the bakery that night. He told her she was being arrested for suspicion of murder for Ralph's wife. Lucy couldn't believe this was happening. She was brought downtown. She saw Ralph and asked what was going on. He refused to speak to her. She swore she had nothing to do with it. Lucy explained that she arrived at Ralph's house and the wife was dead. The officer didn't know who to believe. Lucy was placed in prison for murder charges and was very depressed. Oliver and Elizabeth were wondering where she was. They sent her to get a wedding cake at the bakery and she never returned. They figured she must have gotten caught up chatting with someone, so went to bed. Ellen came down with stumpy flu. That means it is time to spin the wheel of death. Ouch, this will hurt. This makes me so sad, sad face so. Ellen begged to still go to school to see her friends one last time. Oliver and Elizabeth were concerned Lucy never came home. He recommended they check the bakery if Lucy ever went there yesterday. Elizabeth went down to the bakery and asked if Lucy ever showed. Agatha said she wasn't there last night, but Rahul told her Lucy was arrested at the bakery last night. Confused, Elizabeth headed down to the jailhouse. There she found Lucy and asked what was going on. Lucy told her Ralph was framing her for his wife's murder. Elizabeth told Lucy to say prayers for a miracle, and she tried to find money for a lawyer. Lucy felt hopeless. Back at home, Oliver comforted her about Ellen's illness and Lucy's wrongful imprisonment. Together they agreed they wanted to get married quickly before Ellen passed so she could be part of it. Lucy went into labor in her jail cell. This was her worst nightmare. She knew they would take her baby from her. A girl? Jail baby Azam. Oliver and Elizabeth quickly threw together a beautiful ceremony at his church. Mr. and Mrs. Oliver Gorgino. Lucy didn't even know she was missing the wedding. Webster and Cassandra put on a show of their fake courtship at the wedding to make his mom happy. Back at home, they were confused to find a baby left at their doorstep. Oliver was quick to begin caring for the crying baby. They discussed how weird it was and what to do with the strange baby. They both agreed to keep them until they found out whose baby it was. But they couldn't get over how weird of a situation this was to happen on their wedding night. Lucy went to go cuddle the baby when she noticed a note. The note read that this baby was named Asa and born to an inmate who elected Elizabeth to be the caretaker. She immediately knew this was her niece, Lucy's baby. Elizabeth and Oliver consummated their marriage.
One look at you, my whole life falls.
Ellen was laying in bed and started seeing a light coming towards her.
I prayed for you.
Scared, she ran downstairs to her mother's arms. Elizabeth held her tight, not knowing it'd be the last time. Oliver played with Asa, not knowing what was happening in the room next door. Elizabeth felt the life leave Ellen's body. She gave her baby girl one last kiss. Oh hey Grim, Long time no
Oliver
see.
heard
Elizabeth's
the
cries
best
and
thing
came to see the
that
heartbreaking scene. The kids also came down to see what was going on. Rip Ellen. They buried her next to William with her favorite teddy. Despite their heartbreak, the next morning was Lucy's trial. Ralph's lawyer asked each for a description of what happened. Lucy said she arrived and saw Ralph over his DFD wife's body. Ralph said he arrived and saw Lucy K1 his wife in front of him. Lucy's lawyer asked why they think the other K1 led Ralph's wife. Lucy explained Ralph would rather K1 his wife than be divorced for his reputation. Ralph accidentally responded that he did to be with Lucy, not his reputation. The judge was shocked by Ralph's accidental confession. He ruled that Ralph was guilty and Lucy was innocent. Lucy and her lawyer were relieved. At home, she finally got to bond with Esm. She made peace with this entire situation. At dinner, Oliver suggested she and Esm should move and get away for a bit. The town already started rumors about Lucy, so she should go somewhere to have a clean slate. Lucy agreed. She and Esm moved to the small town of Forgotten Hollow. Ophelia aged up into a teen. She is lazy. Ophelia fit check. Ophelia was sad to not have her twin with her on their birthday. Elizabeth and Oliver suggested it was time to learn wifely duties before she began meeting any potential suitors. Elizabeth first started with simple lessons. Laundry. Gardening. Oliver and Elizabeth decided since Webster was about to age to a young adult they should throw a party. Elizabeth baked a cake for him with Cassandra. Outside, Mortimer caught Webster in an intimate moment with Italia. Webster knew he was screwed. Mortimer yelled at him for betraying his daughter's heart. Elizabeth and Cassandra came outside when they heard yelling. Mortimer told Elizabeth her son was an adulterer. Webster acted out a fake breakup scene with Cassandra for their parents. Elizabeth told Webster she didn't understand what was going on, and they would talk about it tomorrow. Webster went up to Italia and kissed her again, affirming he wanted to spend his life with her. Look at this helpful spooky princess who came to the party. After a disaster of a party, Webster aged into a young adult. The next morning, Webster explained to Elizabeth his heart belonged to Italia. He explained the fake courtship, though he did not tell his mother about Cassandra liking girls to protect her. While she was upset he lied, she was happy her son found a true love. She gave her blessing for him to marry Italia. Now with their relationship public, he took Italia out to enjoy an afternoon at the park. And the magical moment came. She said yes. He went home and announced the engagement to his mother. Elizabeth was happy for Webster and the future for their family. She told Webster they needed to begin planning a beautiful ceremony. When Oliver got home, they told him the news. He was happy for Webster and said if they would get married at his church, he'd help them buy their own home. They also bought Italia and Webster new wardrobes to celebrate them becoming young adults. The church faced backlash after Lucy's issues, so Oliver was excited to have positive celebrations here again. Webster was just excited to spend his life with Italia openly. He went to bed this night for his last time as a bachelor in his childhood bedroom. Elizabeth prepared a big breakfast the morning of the wedding. She then went to the market to get fresh flowers with Italia to decorate the church with. She was excited for the new daughter-in-law addition to the family. Lucy, Ophelia, and Elizabeth helped Webster get ready for the ceremony. They were all so excited for him. Italia's friends, Georgina, Morgan, and Cassandra helped her get ready. Despite the fake courtship, Cassandra was excited to see her two friends be wed. Then it was time for the ceremony to begin. The two exchanged beautiful handwritten vows. Mr. and Mrs. Webster Kenley. After the wedding party was over, Oliver took them a town over to Windenburg. He wanted the family to get out of Henford due to rumors still spreading about the family thanks to Lucy. So he bought them a house in Windenburg. Webster and Italia loved the home. Oliver was so glad he would try to find a house nearby eventually for Ophelia too. They were ready to begin their life together. And once Oliver left, they quickly consummated the marriage.
New House Tour. Kitchen. Study. Dining room. Bedroom. Bathroom. Balcony. This will eventually be a children's room, so ignore the furniture. The home is located in the heart of Windenburg. Here it is on the gallery.
Fall was now starting as Webster and Italia settled into their home. Since the life expectancy was not as long back then, I aged Oliver and Elizabeth into elders. The spooky family also moved with Italia and Webster. Italia was getting used to doing household chores like laundry, cooking, and gardening. They also wanted many children, so frequently tried for a baby. William came to check out the house. Italia was really enjoying taking care of the home. But frequently would get interrupted by getting sick. Despite it only being fall, the Kenleys were amazed by the first snow at their house. But once again, the moment was ruined for Italia by having to rush inside due to feeling sick. She had a sneaking suspicion what caused the nausea. She told Webster, who was so excited. Italia visited Windenburg's market for baby furniture with her mom. When she arrived home, Elizabeth arrived for a visit. She told her the news of the baby. Elizabeth went to work teaching Italia how to knit onesies. She gifted her a bag of her own yarn to continue her new knitting skills. She was so excited to be a grandma. Webster and Italia regularly broke gender norms. He liked to help her around the house, like with cooking. They spent all of their time together. Italia was getting the hang of knitting. Webster was picking up piano. Now to check on everyone's favorite aunt, Lucy. Lucy loved being a mother to Azim. However, the town was strange. Every night, she felt a strange calling to visit her neighbor Vladislaus. He was a vampire who would drink from her regularly and use her as his human pet. He would reward her with love, something she desperately missed since Ralph betrayed her. But this night things got too heated. Vlad got caught up in a moment of passion with Lucy. He let his feelings get the better of him and hypnotized her and turned her into a vampire too. Lucy didn't realize what was happening. They enjoyed a woohoo together. Then Vlad drank from Lucy for the last time as she was about to no longer be human. Webster went off to his new job in the business career. While he made money at work, Italia made money with her garden. She also was nesting by cleaning around the house. And finishing the onesie she started with Elizabeth. Lucy wasn't feeling well, but hoped a shower would make her feel refreshed. Vlad assured her within a few days she'd feel better than she ever had before, then convinced her a woohoo would lift her spirits. Over dinner, Webster recommended they invite family to visit and help prepare for the upcoming baby. Italia agreed, and a few days later Webster's family arrived. Oliver was so excited to meet the first grandchild of the family, and even the possible heir. Webster enjoyed catching up with Ophelia. She told him about a few boys at school she was considering which to court. Lucy spent the whole evening alone. She told everyone she didn't feel good. Italia also spent some of the evening alone, but her reasoning was due to pregnancy exhaustion. Elizabeth gave Webster some parenting advice. Then everyone headed home to allow Italia to rest peacefully. Though the next morning she woke up with an irritable mood swing. She let her emotions out in her cooking. Webster made sure to give her lots of compliments to cheer her up. After he went to work, she went to handle some laundry. But then felt her water break. She tried to relax to delay labor until Webster got home. Webster arrived home and woke Italia. Once she woke up, she knew it was baby time. Webster tried to comfort her pain, but it didn't help. Italia felt she needed to push. Webster led her upstairs to the bassinet Elizabeth gifted them and prepared her for delivery. Italia took the cue and began pushing. Webster hated seeing her in pain and felt like no help. A boy. Our new heir. They decided to name him Warren. Welcome Gen 3 heir. Italia felt an instant motherly connection. She and Webster were both so excited he was finally here. At first he struggled with breastfeeding, but eventually he latched, and she was able to feed him. She also dressed him in the blue onesie that she knit. She thought about the miraculous gift she had been granted, and the life Warren will live. Italia and Webster tried for another baby, not to replace Warren, but to heal the hurt in their heart. Winona also aged up to a child. Italia felt sick by the smell of food, and knew what that meant. Winona is a glutton. Fit check. Italia went right away teaching Winona how to cook. Webster still had difficulty resuming normal activities without being sad. Look what cuties came to visit. Winnie also aged up, but I forgot to film it. Webster enjoyed teaching her basic needs. He then wrote to Ophelia and told her all about Warren, the girls aging up, and Italia's pregnancy. Look at this cute portrait for the family photo wall in the study. The Kenleys were getting used to parenthood. Italia took as much personal time as she could to heal her body. And also danced to keep the vibes fresh in the mirror. Why is she going so hard? Webster also took personal time to relieve himself as he couldn't be intimate with Italia while she was healing. They did their best to navigate their new normal together. Such a helpful, spooky princess. Middle of the night cries were always the hardest for the Kenleys. Stuck in Forgotten Hollow, Vlad advised Lucy and Evan to move in with him while she dealt with her sickness. Lucy tried to remain as normal of a life for as possible. Vlad came clean and admitted to Lucy she wasn't sick. She was transitioning to a vampire. She was shocked and scared what that meant. Vlad assured her she could live a long, happy, immortal life. Lucy didn't know what to do about her family. They would never accept her as a vampire. Vlad went to show Lucy his basement. He showed her a coffin, and she'd need to complete her transformation inside it. Lucy was scared. Vlad told her coffins could be fun, and he'd show her one way of how. Lucy still felt scared. Vlad said she could get in the coffin and transform, or she would die. Lucy decided Adza was too young to leave behind, so got in the coffin. Though she ended up missing her birthday while transitioning. Essa was sad and confused of where her mom was and spent her birthday alone. Back at home, Webster and Italia wanted a large family, so were quick to try for baby too. Late night cries were always Italia's duty since Webster had to wake up early for work. Though this night was extra hard because Italia was not feeling well. Though she was learning her body and knew what this meant. Could you have put your yogurt down first? It was time for Warren to age up. Silliness seems to run in the family. What a cute little heir! Thanksgiving was coming up, so the family cleaned around the home to prepare for family. The family arrived to celebrate Thanksgiving. Ophelia brought along her new fiancé, Richard. He bonded quickly with Webster and Oliver. Italia was so happy to have the family over, but they noticed Lucy and Essa were missing. Webster asked the new couple about their wedding plans and was excited for their upcoming ceremony. They were planning a wedding to be near Christmas. Elizabeth helped set the table before the big meal. Italia put finishing touches on the turkey dinner. And then announced that dinner was served. Everyone everyone grabbed a plate and went to dig into the delicious food while enjoying each other's company. The family discussed how strange it was that Lucy never showed up or brought Esm. Ophelia and Richard tried to lighten the mood with non-stop talking about their upcoming nuptials. Oliver and Italia tried to act engaged to their conversation, but they both had a pit in their stomach of Lucy's and Esm's absences. Ophelia tried to be positive and said maybe Lucy found a man in Forgotten Hollow and spent the holiday with his family. They all tried to look past the situation for now and just enjoy the holiday spending time together. Elizabeth and Webster discussed how strange it was and maybe they should pay her a visit in Forgotten. Lucy completed her transformation. Vlad was ecstatic to have his own immortal lover. He took her out in the secrecy of nighttime for her first feed on an unsuspecting victim. She compelled her first victim to let her take a drink. Once she was done, Vlad showed her how to compel the victim to forget what happened. Back at home, Italia was cleaning up after Thanksgiving dinner. While Webster read Warren to sleep. Though the next morning, Webster received urgent messages to get to Henford ASAP as Elizabeth was unwell. She passed peacefully at her own home due to old age. Oliver asked Webster to bury Elizabeth with the rest of the family. He said he knew his time was coming soon, still wanted to make sure Elizabeth's grave site would be well cared for after he was gone. Webster discussed the shared grief of losing their mother with Ophelia. He promised her they would continue on with her legacy, especially at Ophelia's upcoming wedding. Later, when he arrived home, he told Italia the unfortunate news of Elizabeth's passing. She was shocked and overcome with grief. But she stayed a strong force to comfort her grieving husband. The family struggled with their grief after Elizabeth's loss.
All I see are girls too good to be true, with paper white teeth and perfect bodies. Wish I didn't care. I know their beauty's not my like, but it feels like that weight is.
Oliver headed to Forgotten Hollow to break the news to Lucy.
I can't let it go. Comparison.
He was shocked at Lucy still looking so young. She may have been Elizabeth's younger sister, but he was confused how she looked like she hadn't aged. Though a loud scream broke him out of his shock, he and Lucy raced to the scream that sounded like Esm's. In the basement, they found Vlad standing over her lifeless body he had drained of all BL0 odd. Lucy fell to her knees as she felt her whole world crumble. Oliver demanded to know what happened to Azim. Vlad confidently told him he was thirsty and only meant to drink a little from her, but got carried away, and K1 led her. He then compelled Oliver to pass out so he could clean it all up. Lucy was horrified. She told Vlad he would rue this day, and she would K1 anyone he ever loved for the rest of eternity as revenge. Vlad was more powerful due to his age and told Lucy to go join Azim before K1 ling her too. He then ran out before Oliver awoke. When B did wake up, he was petrified and ran out. He ran all the way to the next town over, Windenburg, to the Kemleys. He explained to them what happened and that now that he knew Vlad's secret, the family wasn't safe. He recommended after the baby was born, everyone should move to a new country. He recommended possibly the United States. Italia didn't know what to think. Italia began feeling some pains while taking care of Warren. After she finished his bath, she went into full-blown labor. Just like her last birth, Webster led her upstairs to the bassinet and cheered her on. She began pushing. A girl? They wanted a W theme for their children, so came up with Winina. Welcome baby Winina. Webster introduced Warren to his new sister. After they settled down, Webster and Italia had a serious discussion about moving to the United States. Webster's business did well in Germany, but he knew he'd have more customers in the US. Ophelia took care of Oliver after the incident, but the stress was negatively affecting his heart. With the stress, his old age, and a poor diet weighing on him, Oliver had a heart attack. Unfortunately, heart attacks weren't really treatable back then, so he did pass away. Webster came to check on Oliver where he learned of the news. He told Ophelia they were moving to the US and recommended she and Richard join them. Ophelia wasn't sure Germany was her home. She told Webster she would think about it. She and Richard then had a private wedding ceremony the next day. The only two there as witnesses were Italia and Webster. Ophelia told Webster she decided to stay in Germany, but wished him safe travels to the US. Ophelia and Richard came to see the Kenleys off as they boarded their ship to the United States. The trip was expected to take a few weeks. Ophelia made Webster promise to write her once they arrived safely in New York. He promised her that he would and hoped one day she and Richard would join them in New York. Ophelia still wasn't sure of ever leaving Germany, but told him she'd visit one day. Italia and Webster were nervous and excited for their voyage.
Found my
They were able to afford a nice-sized cabin for their family of 4. This is where they'd call home for the next few weeks. They made the most of their time on the ship. They played with Warren often to make sure he felt normal. Webster enjoyed socializing with other passengers. They had many fine dining experiences on board. And spent most nights observing the beautiful views.
Running from the law through the backfields and getting drunk with my friends. Had my first kiss on Friday
And spending time together.
I don't reckon that I did it right, but I was younger then.
The cabin did slowly feel cramped as time passed. They couldn't wait to make it to the U.S. But after a few weeks, they finally made it and disembarked from the ship. Warren was happy to be back on land. Webster and Italia were excited for their new journey in America. The Kenleys moved to a town in upstate New York called Newcrest. Time for a house tour. Front porch. Entryway. Dining room. Kitchen. Living room. Study. Master bed and bathroom. The upstairs has 5 rooms available with 4 bathrooms. Porch laundry area. Across the bridge over the pond is a private graveyard for our spooky family. Warren also. Here is the house on the gallery. It is pretty open and plain for now, but I plan to use this home long-term and will update it as decades pass. Warren's new child look. Warren experienced his first snow in New York. Webster went out to play in it with him.
In my hands, I hate the beach, but I stand in California with my toes in the sand.
Use the sleeves of my sweater, let's have an adventure. Head in the clouds, but my gravity's centered.
Italia made them a hot chili once they came in to warm them up. Warren also was now beginning to embrace his role as a big brother. Italia wanted to start a tradition of brides of the family displaying their wedding gowns. Webster wrote back to Ophelia as promised. He told her of their safe arrival and they were settling into Newcrest. He asked her to visit ASAP. Lucy and Ellen came to visit their new home. The following morning, Winnie aged up to a toddler. I swear I always get silly toddlers. So cute.
goosebumps start to raise the minute that my left hand meets your waist. And then I watch your face, put my finger on your tongue.
While Webster and Warren headed to their first day of work in school, Italia handled household chores. She also worked on teaching Winona to talk and took some time to knit. When Webster returned home, they tried for baby. And a few weeks later on Christmas Eve, Italia discovered she was pregnant. Despite it being a blizzard outside, Webster went to the woods and brought back a fresh Christmas tree. They all decorated it as a family. And Italia read the kids the Christmas story before bed. The next morning, they all opened their Christmas gifts together. Webster also received mail from Ophelia. She wrote to him that they were expecting their first child and life in Germany was fine. She missed her brother tremendously. They ended their day with a ham grand meal.
When I bite that lip, come get me too. He want lipstick, lip gloss, hickeys too.
But then the next morning, they all woke up with the flu. So time to spin the wheel. Ouch, not the air. This one will hurt. Winona is a glutton. Fit check. Italia went right away teaching Winona how to cook. Webster still had difficulty resuming normal activities without being sad. Look what cuties came to visit. Winnie also aged up, but I forgot to film it. Webster enjoyed teaching her basic needs. He then wrote to Ophelia and told her all about Warren, the girls aging up, and Italia's pregnancy. Look at this cute portrait for the family photo wall in the study. For anyone wondering about Ophelia, she had a son named Ben. As Italia's pregnancy progressed, she felt sad about Warren missing out. OMG, look how cute! Lol, never mind. As a gift for his girls, Webster brought home a Dalmatian puppy. The girls both spent time with him and named him Spot for his coach. Webster also taught Winona responsibility with feeding Spot. While Italia was bathing Winnie, she began feeling so tired she could fall asleep on the floor. She fell asleep right after she finished her bath. Then her water broke while she slept. The labor pains woke her up out of her sleep. Webster tried to help her relax, but knew it was time. Will it be the new heir? A girl? OMG twins, meet our new heir. Holy moly, well, as an ode to our founder William. Your wife just had triplets, and you want cake. Welcome the Kenley triplets. Cutest boy. Winona's birthday was approaching, so Webster and Italia talked to her too about birthday plans. Winona wanted a family-only celebration. Italia also mourned how Warren never got to be a teen. Winona enjoyed being an older sister. But many nights were spent sleepless for Webster and Italia with 3 crying babies. The next morning, Webster went over manners with Winona and how polite girls would find potential suitors easier than mean girls. Spot aged up to an adult. Webster received mail from Ophelia. Italia continued cooking lessons with Winona. Ophelia wrote to Webster about her son, Ben. The family was finally moving to the United States soon and hoped to find a home in the neighborhood. Italia needed a break from the constant sound of baby cries, so took Spot for a walk. Webster was on diaper duty while she was out. That evening, Winona aged up to a teen, meaning it is now officially 1910.